Hello good people and welcome back to Level Up Your Openings. Today we're going to look at a weapon for white against the classic Caro-Kann. Apologies to the Gotham fans. I personally don't use the Caro-Kann as black, but I've encountered it in my travels as I play e4 as white. So anything to add to my arsenal against it is a welcome thing. Let's level up our ELO.
Round 1. Fight!
Oh, before I begin and before I forget, if you do like this content, find it helpful and somewhat helping you get more ELO, well, like and sub would be truly appreciated. You have my gratitude. Let's get started. Recap, the Caro-Kann is e4, c6, the response from black, and then after d4, d5, freeing up the bishop. It's like a reverse French defense, except with a good light-scored bishop. And in this variation, we'll talk about knight to c3, not the push, not the advanced variation. Okay, so the first Caro-Kann position we're going to look at for white starts with e4, c6, d4, d5, knight to c3 defending, and then takes, not the advanced variation, takes, now knight to d7, bishop to c4, eyeing f7, developing the bishop for fast castle, and now knight g to f6, but again, re-threatening the idea of hitting on f7. So, in this variation, blocks here with knight to d5. But then we develop the other knight, and h6 comes into play. Knight to e4, knight to f6, and then we develop the queen to the second rank, but also insidiously eyeing the semi-open file. So just keeping in check that if you do play something ridiculous like bishop to d7, well, yeah, that's a checkmate. So yeah, no, don't do that. That's horrible. In this position, bishop to f5 was played, so we take and take, not wanting to ruin the structure, not wanting to, well, you can't capture as your queen. Your king is en prise, so takes, and now the idea of threatening again f7 is put into play. You don't want to block with the bishop because after takes, that really breaks your structure. After takes with the bishop, at least. e6. And now comes the hyper-aggressive but very necessary move. A move that'll let you guys guess or figure out. Have a look at the position. How do you reinstate the threat to f7? 3, 2, 1. The next move of the sequence is g4. Kind of breaking the law that you shouldn't push the pawns in front of the king, but his king's also not castled. So in this line, if bishop to h7, then we wreck the position. How do we wreck the position? Look at the position and tell me how we wreck the position. So go ahead and try to figure out what the strongest and killer move is. 3, 2, 1. The strongest move is knight. Takes on f7, sacrificing the knight. And now there's a fork, or did you just give up your knight? But the thing is, there's x-rays here. So if you take the poison knight, you get a check. You cannot go to any other square. And this one's being sniped. And these pawns means after queen to f5, game over. No exit squares. But you may be wondering, after g4, what if black is not a patzer? Doesn't move back here or here, instead plays this, attacks the rook. Well, that's a great question. And the thing is, there's two ways to defend this, and I would like to defend with the most solid line, which is the one I'll tell you guys, and that's just simply looking at that. And again, if you do nothing here, well, then this gets attacked, right? So in this position, you offer your rook. So after takes, again, what would be the strongest move? You offer your knight back. You have to defend with queen to e7, because if you take, again, the same disaster befalls you, and then you get checkmated anyway. So now you've sacrificed a whole rook, and black accepts it. After that move, in this position, The queen moves here, avoiding the pin there, and you simply take and then re-attack on this side. If the bishop tries to save itself with bishop to d5, then hit the queen first. Takes, and now you have a centralized knight, and maybe they have a centralized knight, but you're up a pawn. So that's the first variation, guys. Pretty solid. A little bit of a review there. e4, c6, d4, d5, knight c3 takes, bishop 2, hitting, knight to f3, retreat to e4, maintaining any ridiculous ideas like bishop to d7. You take, re-threaten, push. And if they retreat, just break the position open. Takes. That's a mate. Alright, position 2 for the Caro-Kann starts with e4, c6, d4, d5, knight to d2 this time instead of knight to c3, d takes, knight takes, and then bishop, early bishop to f5, which you play the knight to g3 variation, and then push, trying to get some space, the final frontier. Nope, more space to attack, and just territory there. h6, knight to f3, you don't advance yet. And here, knight to f6, bullying this to ruin the light squared squares. And positionally, some people would play bishop to d3, but that's not what we're aiming for. We're here for carnage. So, bishop to c4, again, the threat of the f7 square, so e6. Here you play queen to e2. And black's next two moves hinge upon how this game will turn out, and it's pretty trappy, because if they play the wrong variation, then the first one is if they play knight b to d7, guess what? You wreck f7 again. After takes, that's a checkmate. You can't take, light squares are weak, there's no exit square, that is definitely a mate. And you lose the exchange, right? The next fatal error, of course, is if not knight to d7, going on the queen takes on d4 variation again, if takes, and then we take. Of course, this leads to, again, the classical, yeah, you get checkmated. But what if after queen takes on d4 we go back? Well, that's simply a free rook. And after check, you block with c3. So, yeah, very trappy. Very nice indeed. Quick recap. It's e4, c6, d4, d5, knight to d2, takes, and this is the early bishop edition. After that, you push it away, and a knight to f3, and then knight to e5, aiming for f7, and you leave this pawn hanging. If here you takes, and it's mate. I'll show that again. Hits, pinned, no exit. If queen takes, same idea. Takes, mate. On this side with a push. You try to save it, you get absolutely, positively crushed. And if takes, castle first, and if takes, there is a fork. Yeah. So, going back, hope you guys enjoyed that little trap setup for the Caro-Kann. I hope to see you guys later. Double peace.